And
between whom?
Between ourselves and between others. Okay, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how this impacts your performance. I want to start by saying Will Smith said in his book, anybody read or listen to his book called Will?
Highly suggested, guys. 15 hours Audible. It's the best book I've ever heard.
Other than Upsurge, which was my book.
Up what? Is it on Audible?
Yeah, it is.
I couldn't find it.
Anyway, but Will says, my life, I would live or die by the people around me, right? And he references Jim Rohn about the 5 people that are around you are the greatest impact of your life, or that you can look at the 5 people around you and that's kind of who you are. But here's the funny thing. You know where I heard about that book, Will? This guy comes in at the last mix. He's like, dude, you got to listen to Will. You got to listen to a Will. I'm like, have you listened to Upsurge yet? No, I didn't say that. But, and I did, but I listened to, we've been listening to it and the book impacts me. So here's what I want to do. I want to start by, I'm going to introduce Shea, and then I want Shea to introduce me. That's the curve. Damn, it better be good, brother. Just saying.
If these dudes don't know who you are by now.
Anyway, I don't think people know. They know you. They don't know me. So let
they don't even know me.
Everybody knows Shea.
She's from Puerto Rico.
No,
El Salvador.
Oh man,
that's what he told me. So.
Okay, so let me tell you about Shea, because there's some fascinating things about him. Right. I met Shea November of 2020. He did a fireside chat like this with myself, him, and there was one other individual there, the 3 of us. And the guy immediately impacted me. I was like blown away. I was like, I'm going to have a hard time getting a word in edgewise because this guy won't shut up. But everything was so impactful and so meaningful. And I immediately thought, as I realized where he was going in his life, I'm like, his baseball career is gonna pale in comparison to what he's gonna bring to the world as a speaker, and that because he's that good. So you guys are, and I'm serious. You're lucky to be in a room and be able to listen to him because he's that good. He's a 2-time MLB, Major League Baseball player, All-Star, which means that he was that time he was in the 1% of all baseball players, all professional baseball players, period, at that level. But out of out of his athletic experience, I'm absolutely amazed by the fact that it's like all this stuff is baseball. And he probably gets tired of me hearing about or saying this, but I'm like, this guy was the high school soccer player of the year when he was a senior, right? I feel like blows my mind. It's like how the crap. I'm just like, he's like a freaking Bo Jackson.
No,
except nowhere near as good looking. But Shea is more than anything. Out of everything that I can say about Shea, he's a man of faith, which matters to me. If you're not, that's fine, but that matters to me. And he's probably one of the most giving and trustworthy people I know. And to me, that's what I want to say about him. So,
thank you.
Dude, you're gonna have to level up.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's pretty interesting because when I played Major League Baseball, I didn't have a voice, and doing the work internally and getting things straightened out, what I needed to take care of on the inside, put me in a position to discover new gifts and new talents and new opportunities. And Tab reached out to me on social media like so many other people do and asked me to come to a fireside chat. And it was interesting because I had no idea who he was. I didn't understand where he was coming from because I get requests all the time, but something about it just go with it, Shea. So I show up to this fireside chat and we have this conversation, and just to see the purity of Tab's heart and where he came from. And, you know, I've met so many people in my life, it's crazy. And so many people that come with surface level stuff, try to take advantage of me because of where I was, all that stuff. But he didn't do that. And then I met Catherine, his wife, which is absolutely amazing to see that they've been married, not 30 years, 34 years. And
25 of the best years of my life, by the way.
It's just a beautiful thing because you really don't see that anymore. But, you know, a lot of people think of Tab as an ordinary guy. And he has an ordinary guy's approach story, but he's far from that. His ability to network, his ability to scale out of where he came from with his company, like a lot of people do, was just so admirable because it's amazing. I'm not going to tell his story because that's for him to tell. But it's just amazing to see align with like-minded people, and that's what we hope you guys do here, is to be able to have that opportunity to dig deep and understand that, you know, we all have new beginnings. We all have opportunities. Our brain is malleable. We can create and design anything we ever want to. And Tab's been influence on that for me, with me understanding how to integrate inside the business world, because I didn't know anything about business. I bought a zoo when I left Major League Baseball, and lost all my money, lots of money. So it's really awesome to be able to trust somebody. And I'm still getting used to him joking all the time, because when I show up, I'm ready to go. I'm like the white Eric Thomas. I'm like, just like, let's rock this stuff, dude. And he's like, you're ugly. And I'm like, screw you, let's talk, dude. So it's cool, but I just appreciate your friendship, because when you're on top of the world where I was, you don't have many friendships, guys. And the friendships you have are close friendships from high school, or guys that you trust from back in the day, and they're really not in a good spot right now, and you got to kind of have to keep them at bay so they don't influence you and speak into your life and bring you down. So I'm just blessed and honored to be his real estate agent.
Yeah. So
was that a good curveball?
Yeah, that was a good curveball. So it's funny because, like, he called me. He's like, dude, you're the Godfather, man. That's your new nickname, Godfather. And I'm like, I said, dude, you're like a white Eric Thomas, man. You're like that dynamic. And he's like, oh, that's cool. He goes, that's a compliment. I'm like, your nickname is Wet.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I'm not going with that. So anyway, one of the reasons why we do this, we're going to do these fireside chats, is because, you know, you're going to learn something from somebody. You're always going to learn something from somebody, whether that is, you know, something good, something bad. You're going to learn something, right? And, you know, we spend so much of our life going to school, right? And it's like, what do we do with what we do with that, right? I mean, what is it we're taking away that we're learning from? And so a lot of it, you know, like the reason why I did this is I learned something from Steve Sims. And I think some of you were there when he said, if I walk into a bar and I walk up to people and I'm like, hey, Steve Sims, I'm a big deal. Let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you why I'm important. People are going to go, man, what a freaking jerk. Why is that guy so full of himself? But if somebody comes along and says, hey, do you know who that guy over there is? That guy over there is Shea HIllenbrand, 2-time Major League Baseball player, right? People are going to be like, wow, that's really cool. So you think about, what is it people say about you? All right, what are the things that they say about you? Because nobody's going to, I mean, you can go up there and say, this is why I am so great. That's a big turnoff. But if other people do it, it's more meaningful. And the reason why I was thinking about this today of all days is because of a post that this guy put on Facebook talking about Barry Bonds and just the impact that he made on you.
Does everybody know who Barry Bonds is in here? Okay, cool.
Tell us about your relationship with Barry.
I showered with him.
This just got weird.
Sorry, man. I showered with guy. We have to shower after the game, right? So it was really interesting because Barry's kind of like he does his own thing. He's his own guy, and wasn't part of the Players Association. He grew up with his dad, Bobby Bonds, who's really good in baseball. His godfather's Willie Mays, excuse me, and he was close to Willie McCovey as well. But life's about decisions, guys, and opportunities that we take advantage of when we get presented with them. We never know when we're going to get presented with an opportunity that gives us a chance to go to the next level or take us from where we want to go right now, our vision from ideology to reality. So I went through some tremendous turmoil in Toronto with the Blue Jays. You can Google it. I got in a fight with the manager in the clubhouse. It was bad stuff. And I ended up in San Francisco in 2006. I've already been a 2-time MLB All-Star and making tens of millions of dollars. And I could hit a baseball. I was really good at doing that. So I'm in the clubhouse, and my locker was like right here, and the entry to the clubhouse is there. So I'm sitting there by myself, and Barry Bonds walks in with his entourage. And he comes up to me and gives me a big hug. And he says, man, it's great to have you here. I'm like, wait. The San Francisco Giants traded for me or picked me up because to take the heat off you because I'm the biggest a-hole in sports right now because of what I just went through on ESPN. So we kind of created some rapport because I knew how he was. I used to play first base against him in Arizona. And just the guy's just a phenomenal athlete, like out of this world athlete. And like arguably the best player ever in my mind, and I'm not up for debating because I really don't like baseball, but the guy's out of this world. So he has a whole side of the clubhouse over here, and he's got 4 lockers, and everybody else has 1, and he's got his strength coach, his weight coach, and his massage, all these people over there because he's the franchise player. That's how franchise players get treated. But everybody else in the clubhouse didn't like Barry because he had the ghetto. He had his own preferential treatment. He had all these extra things that nobody else had, and he's breaking up the chemistry, but that's here nor there. Here I am sitting here, and his locker's right there. I have a decision to make. Do I just sit here and just keep doing what I'm doing right now and maybe get the same results, or do I take a decision, a big decision? So I walk over to his locker, and I sit down in one of the 4 chairs, and I'm the only white guy over there, and I'm like, Barry, this ain't no ghetto, man. You grew up in a clubhouse, man. You live in Beverly Park. Like the poor people live in Beverly Hills, Barry. You have to have 25 liquid cash in the bank to live in Beverly Park. His neighbors, Seinfeld, Reba McEntire, Eddie Murphy, like they have buses that go around the neighborhood. They have like their own, like it's insane. I'm like, dude, this is stupid. I said, teach me everything you know about hitting. Then he proceeds to tell me, man, I like you, man. You're my wigger. And I'm like, what's a wigger, dude? I said, I grew up in a wealthy white neighborhood. I don't even know what you're talking about right now, man. I just didn't care. I wanted to just do everything I could to be a student of the game. So what does that mean? How does that translate to you guys? Doesn't matter where you are, guys. I'm 46 years old now. I had to rewrite my whole freaking identity. I mean, it's crazy. I had a decision then. Life's about decisions that we make. And I took that decision to go talk to Barry, and he taught me in 3 months more than I ever learned my whole Major League Baseball career. And it's cool because the stuff he taught me, I really didn't use for myself. I use it now for everybody else that I could help. And the coolest thing is like when kids or coaches or whatever, like try to contradict, you would contradict me all the time. Like if you were a coach, you'd say, I agree. Well, hell, you should agree with me. I was the best in the world at it. So people try to like question what I do. I'm like, that's fine. You can say whatever you want, but I learned this from Barry Bonds, the best hitter ever. And I could tell you exactly how he did it. And I integrated it into my program and tweaked my swing and did my stuff. And then I'm a 2-time third baseman all-star. I have 0 clue how to field a ground ball, guys. 0 clue. It's a process, right? So what did I do? I went to the best guy in the team, Omar Vizquel. He had 11 gold gloves. And I'm like, hey, how do you do it? And he taught me. And it's about being a student of the game that gets you to the position to go out there and compete with everybody else. But first and foremost, we have to get out of our own way. I say it like a level up system, guys. I was like operating at a level 7. That was my full potential of what I could do. So think about in your business, wherever you are, like you're operating against level 10s, 11s, and 12s. Like I was playing against the best, like people making $400 million, insane stuff. They're doing stuff that you couldn't even imagine. So how does a level 7 potential operate and compete against, and not just compete against, but have success against 10s, 11s, and 12s? It's figuring out how you play the game. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? When you talk to yourself, The most important conversation you'll ever have in your life is a conversation you have with yourself. Not with God or a higher power or your spouse or your boss or your kids or whatever. It's with yourself. And what keeps so many people back is themselves and the voice and the language they use with themselves. Because that language and that conversation you have with yourself, guys, is the foundation of who you are. And what happens is that keeps us confined. I used to own a zoo, so who does that?
A lot of people I know.
Right? I own a zoo. Got the zookeeper here. Front row. Yeah. So I just went out there and just competed, and I got out of my own way. And I talk about how people can find themselves inside their internal zoo, that's shackled to the status quo and complacency and mediocrity. And let me just share something with you real quick, and I'll turn it back over to you, because I'll go all night. Last week I had an appraiser at my house. Good time to appraise your house. We have equity in our home. And the last two appraisers gave us really low appraisals, like not even close. They didn't even know what they're doing. So I'm like, okay, I got to do everything I can, leverage who I am. I got to figure this out because I need to get this done because my wife wants this. So I open up the door at 9 a.m. and the guy's standing there with a Yankees hat on. Mind you, I played for the Red Sox. And I was like, oh, no, Yankee fan? And he's like, oh, I know who you are, Shea. I don't like you because you crushed the Yankees, but I do love you because I took my kids to your petting zoo and had birthday parties there. So it's just about creating rapport, right? So if you want to be able to, I don't want to say like influence or manipulate or whatever, but it's about creating rapport. So when you come to these events, it's like, it's not about like what you do. It's like, who are you? It's the who behind the what. So the gentleman stayed at my house for 4 hours for an appraisal. I was talking to him for 2.5 hours. I caught him outside my office and we started talking. And he's like, you know what? Like, I'm just an appraiser. I've been in this for 17 years. I make good money. And he looked kind of like his beard was kind of scraggly and he looked like a little bit overweight. And he's like, I always wanted to play baseball. Like, I'm a New Yorker. My brother and I always talk about baseball and I missed out on opportunities and I should have done this or I should have done that. And he's just sitting there just beating himself up in front of me. And he's like, and I'm 46 years old and I'm just going to basically just ride out the rest of my life at 46 because I'm an appraiser. And I said, you want to hear something funny? He said, what? I said, imagine being someone who lived your childhood dream of playing Major League Baseball, flying the private jets, the mansions, multiple vehicles, anything and everything I wanted on top of the world, having everything but fulfillment. And didn't know who I was. And I definitely didn't own my life because I didn't have to, because I'm a God. I had little girls in the stands hold up signs saying, will you marry me, Shea? Like, how do you process that? And I do autograph signings for $10,000 an hour. Paid attention, dude. $10,000 an hour. And girls would come to the table, preteen girls, crying and shaking just because they got to meet me. Like I was Justin Bieber. But the thing is like, how do you process, smell it, dude? Clone?
I was like, my eyes are bad. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So it's like, how do you process that? Because they couldn't see that pain-driven game that I was playing and that internal battle that I was fighting and all that stuff that I was going through and living that life, my dream, both my childhood dreams and actively living that in real time and hating who I am because I don't know who I am. See, Oprah said it best, guys. She says, you have to work harder on yourself than do your job. You have to fill yourself up. You have to work harder on yourself. You have to fill yourself up. You're in charge of filling yourself up. So I'm talking to this gentleman, and I was like, imagine doing that and then losing everything and being one breath away from losing your life and giving up. Because 8 years ago, I was in the floor of a van, and after I overdosed on drugs and alcohol, tried to flee, run, numb, and get away from that pain always by myself, with nobody else around, motionless on the floor of this van. And this is somebody that so many people envy. And as the soul's leaving the top of my head and I'm clinging on to my last breath, this van was parked outside my ex-wife's house with my 3 beautiful adopted children inside, at arm's distance away. The children I admired so much, and the reason why I quit baseball the first time. And I'm laying there, and the thoughts going through my mind are, you're a failure, you're a loser, you lost everything. What would your parents think if you left this world today, Shea? What kind of dad would do this to his kids? My answer to that was, I don't know. I'm nothing if I don't have baseball. So I let go. I don't know if I died, if I fell asleep, because the game had become my name, my identity. And I'm sharing this with this gentleman. And I'm like, imagine being there and going through all that stuff that you envisioned and you imagined and being 46 years old. But check this out, buddy. You know what's crazy? I found my smile. When you find your smile, guys, everything else takes care of itself. You start aligning with the right people. You walk into the room. You don't have to stroke your ego. You just walk through doors. I got the goosebumps right now, man. You walk through doors. You smile and walk through a door, but you have to take care of yourself. So many of us are sitting here in limbo. So many of us are sitting here in this spot of just a land of nothingness, just like, I'm all alone. But that's the beauty part of this, guys, because you got two owners that care. And that's not normal. It's really cool. So after I shared this with this gentleman, this 46-year-old an appraiser, he's like, wow, I'm stuck and I'm struggling. And he opened up to me. And I gave him a few pointers, whatever, shook his hand. I said, give me a good appraisal, fool. So needless to say, our appraisal came in over $150,000 of what we expected, so it went good. But it doesn't matter where you guys are, whether you're an appraiser or whether you're just trying to find your way, or I'm in my 50s or I'm in my 60s or I'm whatever. I'm here. I have 3 failed marriages. If you want to learn how to lose $20 million, I can share it with you. It's really easy and it's fun. So I had a choice to sit there and just beat myself up, but I got off the floor of that van and I said, man, I got to make a decision. I was forced with 2 crazy, powerful, angry, painful decisions. I had to take back control and own my life. I had to do it. Nobody else. And unfortunately, what happens with so many people, there's 2 ways. You either get humbled or life will humble you. A lot of people, especially men, have to go through a traumatic experience to have that to be an aha moment. And I'm here and to my last breath, I'm going to use my voice to help people understand, dude, I don't want you to go through what I went through. But the thing is I found it. And I've never been in a better spot ever. Peace, fulfillment, understanding. I'm in my dream house, my dream wife, it's insane. But I had to do the work. And each one of you guys have to do your work. So when you walk in this room and you want to do networking or whatever, that's how you set yourself apart. The only thing I can share with you guys is I did so much work because skill sets have utility, right, guys? You have to gain the skill sets of whatever you're trying to achieve. I did so much work. I should have never made it, but I became so good that they had to play me. And that's your decision.
Anybody? Okay. So the moral of that is for 4 hours of Shea's time, it's $37,500 an hour because that equals $150,000, which is what you got above and beyond your appraisal. So, good job.
I guess show up. You never know who you're going to come across, guys. Yeah. You never know what you could do. I cracked home runs like it's crazy because I could step to the plate in Yankee Stadium. I had the 3rd highest active batting average in Yankee Stadium behind Paul Konerko, Ichiro Suzuki, and myself. I was the 3rd best player in Yankee Stadium, the biggest stage in baseball, with 40,000 fans every night. I rocked it there. I could step to the plate and I could perform. But what happens is so many of us put all of our eggs in one basket to perform in our profession. If I just provide, if I just have status, if I just have success, if I just achieve this, all this other stuff's going to go away. So I'd be on ESPN, I'd ruin the Yankees fans' nights, and I'd be all over, have a game-winning home run, and I'd go out with my entourage, stupid, and I'd have $4,000 dinners at a 5-star restaurant, and I'd sit to the supper table, and I couldn't step to the plate there because I'd almost pee my pants every time because I had fear of walking across the restaurant to use the restroom and fear of everybody staring at me. No self-esteem, no self-worth. So that's an extreme example. But so many of us put our eggs in the basket of performance, our job, and our health goes by the wayside. It's number one thing we got to take care of, right? 3 things to help you guys with health is sleep, exercise, and eat. Simple. You know how much work I've done to be able to counterbalance the ebb and flows of popcorn?
Oh, yeah, man.
I prepared for this, man.
So go ahead. I yield to you.
2005, I made the All-Star game for the Toronto Blue Jays. We're playing in Detroit, Michigan. I take a Citation 10 private jet from the Chandler Airport to Detroit, Michigan. You have to have a 5,000-foot runway to have private jets take off from there. This runway was 4,995 feet. I got clearance because I am big, bad Shea pimping, riding off my ego. So here I am flying to the All-Star game, my childhood dream, from Chandler, Arizona to Detroit, Michigan, in a Citation 10 jet. Imagine yourself, pilot, co-pilot, 10-passenger, multi-million-dollar jet. This is the fastest civilian jet in the world. I'm flying at 64,000 feet, going 640 miles an hour. A normal commercial airliner flies about 40,000 feet, goes about 300, 400 miles an hour. That's it. I'm on top, just going like a bullet. And I'm sitting there by myself, getting ready to go play in front of 100 million people the next day. Didn't have any distractions. No family, no kids, no wife, no entourage, no friends with me, by myself. I look out the window, I can't even see the ground, I'm so high. You know the thoughts going through my mind, guys? This is all it is? Really? I'm living it. I'm doing the American dream that everybody thought they should do. I beat it against all odds. Everybody told me, no, I can't do it. And I've swung a baseball bat 1,000,000 times, and I'd be working with my friends, wouldn't work. And everybody out there, all my comrades, and everybody's like hanging out. I'm working, and I did it. And I'm cracking home runs, and I'm making millions and millions of dollars. And I hate myself. I hate everything about this. But I had to go on that night, the next day, and put my smile on and perform. See, every time I took a picture with a fan, guys, I always smiled. Because you never know what somebody's going through. You guys never know what anybody's going through that's lost, that's in that spot of just being able to be one breath away from giving up. And if you just give them a smile, make them noticed, that might give them an opportunity to get through one more day. So I always smiled because I never knew what anybody was going through that came and took a picture with me. You'll see a lot of professional athletes that will just do whatever, their ego, whatever, but I always smile. And then when I left Major League Baseball and bought this great idea of buying a zoo, I bought a $5 million horse farm. I collected 300 farm and exotic animals. I had camels, kangaroos, llamas, alpacas, monkeys, raccoons, 2 800-pound pigs, Wilshire pigs, Taco Bell and Gilbert. I had a blind horse, a Seeing-Eye pony. I had a 3-legged goat. I had all these animals that, his name was Trace.
That's original. Yeah, I like that.
I had a Holstein cow called Biggie, and I had a miniature donkey called Tupac. So it's Biggie. They had wars. But I had this vision, guys, of just going out there and just doing it because that was given to me. And I'd rescue and rehabilitate these animals with unconditional love. And I'd put them in a petting zoo environment, and then people would bring inner city disabled and child crisis children out to interact with my animals through birthday experiences or whatever, through my nonprofit foundation Against All Odds. And the joy I received from that was just priceless. Like, it's just like, wow, my animals are transforming thousands of children's lives in this community right here. I'm bound to have fulfillment now. I'm bound to get it now. Major League Baseball didn't do it. The fame, the glory, all the money, all the extracurricular activities, everything with that. This has got to do it. But it didn't do it. And that's what led me to that night in the van after accomplishing both my childhood dreams. So I met my wife at my farm. And that's an interesting story. We don't have to go into that. But the only thing I remembered and draw me to her was her smile. And all the things I've seen at the kids and the animals, I saw their smiles. And what I was searching for my whole life, guys, what I'm trying to tell you after everything I've accomplished, I was searching for my smile. And it took someone else to help me through that process, to sit there and stand up strong enough to not put up with my crap and play the victim role. Because when we play the victim role, guys, we make excuses and we blame everybody else. And I could do that because don't you understand who I am? And my wife's like, I don't care who you are. You're better than that. And she was strong enough to be able to stay up. And I finally got up. So you guys have people in your lives right now that are those people that are the cornerstones of your lives. And if you're aware of that, and if you nourish those relationships, What's provided to you is abundantly above and beyond anything you'd ever imagine. So to wrap that all up, my wife's the only person that I could ever look in the eyes. Because I could never let anybody look in my eyes in the window of my soul because it was shattered while I was on top of the world. And she said, it's so amazing, sweetheart, because whenever you smile at me, you smile with your eyes. That's pure joy. I've been looking for my smile and my identity, my purpose of who I am my whole life. And I think a lot of us do that. Is what happened with us is that we try to fill that void with external success. And if I just do this, and if I just do that, and if I get this, I'm telling you guys, it don't work. The greatest feeling in the world is discovering who you are. You're going to discover gifts and talents that you didn't know you have and utilize those and strengthen those and get those skill sets that are wrapped around those and get that purpose and that mission and that vision and go out there and deploy that and use that to impact somebody else's life. There's no better feeling in the world, guys. I'm telling you that right now. Regardless of where you are right now, you guys might be saying, I'm so far off, I can't go work out, Shea, because I'm too fat. I can't get away from this stuff. Just simply putting your shoes on, committing and keeping those promises to yourself and gaining that credibility with yourself. That's where it starts. I had all the credibility in the world, guys. When I went to the baseball park, the stadium, I had coaches for throwing and hitting and strength coach and mental coach for performance. We had a videographer that analyzed everything you do. That we had an orthopedic surgeon, we had a chef, we had a massage therapist, everything that you ever want. We're there because it's $1 billion organization and you're the elite of the elite in the world. But whenever I left the stadium each and every night, whenever you guys leave your job each and every night, whether you're cashing a paycheck, having success or not, I didn't have anybody to mentor me or coach me. I didn't trust anybody. I was on my own. I put all my eggs in one basket of the performer and nothing in the person as Shea HIllenbrand. And that's what led me to the spot of going through everything I went through in my life. But that's what it took for me to find my voice. When you guys find your voice, there's no greater feeling in the world.
It's so hard to get a word in edgewise. But you can see why I love this guy, right? So something that might be crossing your mind, hopefully it's not, but maybe, like, okay, that's great, Shea, you...
Showering with Barry Bonds?
You played at this high level. You did something that, that doesn't relate to business. You might be thinking that so much of this absolutely relates to business, right? Because who you end up putting yourself around and the way you think about things, he talks about, he mentions, a fraud, a failure. Has anybody ever felt like that like they're a fraud, they're a failure, that they don't measure up or anything like that? So if you don't know how I ended up here, how Catherine and I ended up here, I want to tell you real quickly, because this is a great story. So, when Shea talks about, trying to kill himself in front of a van, in front of his ex-wife's house, I've talked to him about this. I'm like, dude, that was one of the best days of your life. Absolutely one of the best days of your life, because that was a transition point for him. And I think he knows that. Hopefully he knows that. So one day I have this cybersecurity firm, and man, we're just going 100 miles an hour, growth. And I've got this accountant. It's like, we need to talk because we've got some problems. No, we don't have any problems. And he'd say, we've got 3 problems. We have a group inside the company it's not working. We've got 8 people that were waiting for a contract to come in, and the contract hasn't come in for 8 weeks. I mean, do the math, right? That's 2 months. That's 8 people. That's 16 months of basically salaries and free. And goes, and we just took out a bad loan. All these things came together, and I just kept telling him, you don't understand. All we got to do is sell more. We need more revenue. We need to drive more. We can outrun this thing. And he finally gets it over to me through my head that we're $750,000 in debt, the company is. Which, if you're a big, colossal company, that's nothing. If you're a small company, 15, 20 people like we were, it was catastrophic. So I go from, I'm this excited person, we're going to kill it, we're killing it, we're doing this, we're going to outrun it, to going home and going, what was I doing? I mean, I had that awareness now of like just how bad things were. And I spent 2 weeks sitting in a chair very much like these, looking at a TV set. And I don't watch much TV, looking at a TV set, not even aware of what's going on, just going all of those things that go through your head when you start to self-sabotage, and you're like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm horrible. And people are like, why don't you file bankruptcy and quit and go get a job or go do something else? And I'm like, I owe $250,000 to the IRS. The IRS does not forgive. The only way I can pay this thing off is this freaking crappy company I hate. So I got to stick it out so I can pay off the IRS. But I'm a failure. I'm a fraud. I'm beating myself up. I'm like, oh my gosh, Wesley Snipes went to jail for tax evasion. I'm going to go to jail for tax evasion. Go talk to our tax attorney. He goes, it's not the same thing. But unfortunately, I realized I was going to go to jail for tax evasion on a Friday night, which meant I had Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, until I talked to the guy on Monday to find out that I'm not going to go to jail for that, right? But I'm this huge fraud and this failure. And I knew exactly a point in time in my life when I was a fraud and a failure. And I start paying off the debt of the company, right? Not because people are like, oh, it's so great that you stuck it out. Man, you mean you didn't file bankruptcy? That's so awesome. And I'm like really quickly to tell people, I'm like, man, if I didn't owe $250,000 to the IRS, I would have been, see ya. I would have been gone. But that was the hook to keep me there. And I hated my company and I hated myself. And I would like go down the road on the way to the office because I couldn't let my employees, the few that were still there, know how bad things were. So I would like just be beat up and I would drive down the road screaming, yeah, man, yeah, who wants this? Who feels like a man? You're a man, you're the man, you're the man. Going over this to myself repeatedly. Woo, yeah. I'd walk in the door and be like, hey, how's everybody doing, man? Let's kill this thing. I'd walk into my office and be like, oh my gosh, I was so draining. And I would just like, then I'd pump myself up to get these guys excited as if they didn't see the reality. I thought I could fake that. And I spent so much time believing I was a fraud. And so I started writing that book as therapy to myself. I wrote a chapter. It was about thoughts because all of a sudden, I'm in this horrible spot. And then I get this like clearing and I'm like, oh, wow, things were going to be okay. So I write this paper to myself. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's chapter 1. And then I get this another time and I'm like, oh, that's chapter 2. And I go like, oh, I think I'm writing a book. That's how that book came about. But once I started to realize slowly but surely that I was becoming whole, maybe I could actually do something, right? But that day in my head was the worst day of my life. And so between then and February of last year, when I have another company called Refiners, which will at some point in time absorb into this organization. It's like an advisory board, peer-to-peer networking group. But it wasn't until we had that conference, and I'm sitting there having a discussion, much like this, except it was online, with a guy named Naveen Jain, who's a multi-billionaire, owns a company called Viome that measures the microbiome of your gut, Moon Express. Wrote a phenomenal book called Moonshot, which if you haven't ever read, you ought to read it. It's a great book. And he's having this discussion with me, right? And over the years, I was driving Uber. I wasn't taking a paycheck out of my company. I hated myself. People would be like, so what else do you do besides drive Uber? Oh, I'm a CEO of a cybersecurity, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wait, what? And I'd be like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to lie and just go, this is all I do. And it was hard. It was horrible. But I'm sitting there across from Naveen Jain. And over that period of years, I wrote a book. I started a company that I'm helping other business owners with Refiners. I've become the best business person I had ever been in my entire life. And all I could think about in my head was that day was the worst day of my life. I'm sitting here having this discussion with Naveen Jain. You know, Shea was a speaker at that conference. We had 15, I jokingly say, 15 great speakers and me, one sucked, right?
You said that about me.
I say that when we're not together. I tell other people it was you that sucked. And I'm talking to Naveen Jain, and I mentioned, I wasn't talking about me, I was talking about somebody else, and I mentioned this person talked about this day in their life being the worst day of their life. And he shuts me down in front of everybody. We had like 900 people online in person. And he goes, no, don't ever say that. Don't ever judge a day in your life as being the worst day of your life or anything, because you don't know what the future is going to bring. That might not have been the worst day of their life. They just don't know it. And I'm like sitting there listening to him. I'm like, oh man, like I'm having this awareness. Matter of fact, I'm loading up all of the Refiner Conference talks on the Networking Phoenix YouTube channel. And that one is up there now, but with myself and Naveen Jain. And I'll let people know about those later once they're all uploaded. But he's talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I labeled that the worst day of my life. And all of a sudden I realized, short of, getting married, having children, and those things that happen, I'm like, what I was labeling as the worst day of my life was the best day of my life, because it ultimately led to things like this, with me being here and doing things that I really love and helping people and that. So it's just this really weird thing. Like, what's the relationship that we have with ourselves? Because, it's great. I'm having, I consider this guy one of my best friends. How cool is that? And it's okay. I'm having discussions with Steve Sims, with, Tim Grover, Coach Burr, all these people. But in my mind, I was thinking how horrible my life was. But that situation opened it up to have really great relationships. And so you think about those relationships. First, what is it that you have with yourself? And then what is it that you have with others? And like who's around you, right? So Catherine and I went to a restaurant, and we're sitting there. I'm looking around, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of fat, and I've lost over 100 pounds, so I know what that's like. But it was just, not just old, but old soul. Like they were just tired, right? It was just, this restaurant was just like the people, and I just went. Thankfully, the food here is bad, because if it was great, I'd like want to be here because the food is great. But I was like, I don't want to be here again, because if we come here enough, this is who we become. This is the people that we associate with. So that's why it's so important that we like not only who are we and how do we accept ourselves, but who do we align ourselves with. One of the things I want to talk about, I want this guy to talk about, because he had. And by the way, if you guys should follow what this dude says on Facebook, because his stuff is so good. And I purposely have to try so hard not to like it or not to comment, because this guy really doesn't need any
Thanks,
more.
it screws up my algorithms.
The head just like, it's like, I don't know how the neck supports it. But he was talking about like one time in one of his videos about just what it goes through to hit a pitch, right? Just like the release and the spin and all of that stuff, and just being so good at training yourself to do the same thing over and over. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I did it a million times, yeah.
No, do you remember? You want to talk about that just a little, like what was the experience? I mean, because this is really about the ability to perform like at a really high level like that, because most people in here, they want to be able to perform at the highest possible level that they can. You talk about like 7, you being a 7 and there being 10, 11, and 12s. Most of us are like, as a baseball player, what am I like? Is there a negative? I don't know if does it go below 0 or what?
But it's all relative, right?
It is.
In your industry of where you are.
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of people always say that to me, like, I never was where you were. I don't expect you to. I mean, we're all human beings. We all go through the same things.
Yeah, and you know what, though? In your world, there was somebody that actually got to label you an all-star. In our world, we can't, if you really, I mean, because you can't, if you really.
But when you get labeled that, you have to live up to that expectation. It's a lot of added pressure when you're in front of the world. So it could be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, but I mean, but you know, like in the business world, and like anytime anybody labels himself a guru or an expert,
influencer.
I'm like, no, you're not. You're not a guru and you're not an expert, because I've never once read an article where Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Russell Brunson, you name it, goes, oh, but hey, by the way, I'm a guru, I'm an expert. They just are. They don't need to go out and label themselves, right? But we don't, you know, there's so many of us, and we don't get that like moment in time, right? But it's equally important for us to know when we're performing at our highest level, right? And so how did you know? I mean, like when you saw that, I mean, how did you get, I know we had that conversation at one time when I was asking like about like guys that say that
at the baseball game,
like, the ball's like as big as a beach ball, and he's like, no, it's not.
Never is.
Yeah. Okay.
You just get into flow, right? It's in the zone, and a lot of us do that with our businesses. So I coined the phrase the focus formula. Like I took pride in working. So, I mean, if you reverse engineer it, guys, you have to commit to what you do. In order to commit to what you do, you have to want to do it. And if you don't know, I mean, if you're in a job right now, imagine yourself in 3 years. You know, imagine your future self in just 3 years. Like, do you see yourself doing that in the job that you're in? Do you see the life that you want to design or where you're at in the job you are right now? If not, then maybe you can assess that. I'm not saying quit or do something else, but just bring awareness to that. So you have to commit first. And life's about momentum, guys. Like the hardest part of the momentum cycle is getting started with anything that we do, right? The two biggest things that keep us from getting started is our excuses and current situation. And so many people say, and it pisses me off, when somebody, well, forget your excuses, forget your current situation, just do it. Well, each and every one of your excuses in your current situation is 100% valid. That's driving your truth right now of where you operate from and where I operate from. So if you understand that they're valid, you could own them and you could do something about it. So since we understand that, you still have to get started anyways at what you're trying to do to get momentum. So how do you get momentum? You got to show up every day, right? So you got to show up. I call it the ACE intangibles. You have to have attitude, concentration, and effort. Like if you just put effort in every single day and just do little things, you'll find yourself in a position that's so far greater than you can ever imagine. Like when COVID hit, I was rocking real estate and I had to pivot. I was like, I got to start doing something now. I want to help out major leaguers. Like that's 2 years ago. Like I had this vision right here 2 years ago. Like I know I'm good at it. I know I could do it. I want to be up there, but I had to do the work and show up every day. And so many days I didn't want to show up. Even going to the big leagues, I can't tell you how many times I'm in 5-star Ritz-Carlton. Like I want to quit. But the only thing that separated me and the trend of successful people is that when it becomes monotonous and when it becomes boring and we begin to suffer, I just keep my ass going. I don't give myself an opportunity. How do you do that? You have to set a schedule. You have to set a routine. You have to set a morning routine. I got to fill myself up because I was the biggest a-hole in baseball. Like I still have that in me.
Now he's the biggest a-hole outside of baseball.
No, it ain't, bro. Now they know you're lying. Watch out.
No, dude,
Watch out, dude. Watch out. So you have to begin by getting credibility with yourself. So many of us, our self-esteem, our self-worth is so low that we try to figure it out, and if I just have this and do that, and when I don't achieve anything, then I re-ingrain those limited beliefs and that BS rambling around in my mind and just confirming where I'm at. Like, that's how our mind's programmed. So I'm thinking like, how did Shea HIllenbrand that I had to walk on at a junior college, Mesa Community College, to make the baseball team, I had nowhere to go after high school. I was a number one soccer player. I had a chance to play in Europe and university. Like, no, I'm playing baseball. So I just showed up and I was the first guy there, last guy to leave every day. I wanted it. So you can't just find passion right away, guys. You can't. It's not possible. So you have to find something that interests you. And if you find something that interests you, you got to show up and just do it every day. And then once you go and focus on mastering the skill sets with whatever you're doing, then you start to gain hunger and momentum and passion. So when you do that, I'm telling you guys, you get a test of this. Life will reward you. If you just get into momentum and just keep moving, life will reward you. I'm telling you, it's a universal law. I don't know how to explain it. I don't think anybody can explain it. You will get rewarded. But so many times people come to an area of a failure, a setback, a knockdown, and like, what? 97% of people, 3% of people get there to the top. 97% of people don't get there. Why? Because when they come to that failure, that knockdown, that setback, they give up. They re-ingrain and allow that failure to define who they are. And I was like, no, I'm gonna refine who I. Screw you. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep pushing. So I coined the focus formula. So in order for me to hit in front of 40,000 people inside of a baseball stadium with ESPN, fans, lights, popcorn, all that stuff, it's really simple. The concept's simple. It's all in when you work. So I mastered level 1, hitting off a batter's tee. It's the most simple, stupid thing. I get a bum off the street and hit a batter's tee. It's easy. So many people don't utilize it, but I mastered that. So when I got in the batting cage, I had 4 steps I focused on. Where am I going to hit the ball? I don't expect you to understand it. I want to see if you guys can maybe extract it and maybe imply it into your life, because this takes no talent. This takes zero ability. This takes understanding and grit and perseverance and resilience. That's what separates the good from the best to the average and the people that don't have success, that sit there in complacency and status quo. So the first step of my focus formula is, where am I going to hit the ball? Direction. I'm going to hit the ball at the back of the cage. Step 2, I'm going to look at the ball and I'm going to tell myself, check this out. I'm telling my mind, hit the ball there, right? I've already done it thousands and thousands of times. I'm not trying to figure out how to hit it there. I'm not just saying I'm telling my mind, hit the ball there. Visualization is the number 1 tool we have, guys. Visualization is the number 1 tool we have in our toolbox, and nobody uses it. The mind can't discern the difference. The mind can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. That's where they try to go with the movie The Secret, which is pretty much all BS, but it's just, you can't tell the difference. So step number 2, I'm going to look at the ball and say, I'm going to hit that to L screen or the back of the net. Step 3, I'm going to start my swing and just start going back. And step 4, I'm going to feel it. So it's step 1, direction. Step 2, ball. Step 3, load. Step 4, feel. Direction, ball, achievement, load, feel. Direction, ball, achievement, load, feel. There's only one reason why I do this, guys. And the reason why I do this is because so many of us operate in a generalized focus. There's 2 focuses we could operate from. A generalized focus, which is social media, Netflix, binge watching. It's a instant gratification. I want everything now. I got to get this now because it's going to make me feel good, because I'm running and numbing and fleeing from my internal world of what I believe to be true about myself. So many people operate in a generalized focused atmosphere. When you have a generalized focus of whatever you're doing in your work environment, whatever you're trying to achieve or whatever, generalized thoughts race through your mind. And then fear creeps in. You know what you say? I can't do it. Your self-esteem hits a hit. Not doing it. 4-step focus formula. It gets me specifically focused on the task at hand, like martial arts. Right? When I have a specific focus on task at hand, I become in the moment. When I'm in the moment, focusing on the input of what I'm trying to achieve while I'm mastering the skill set with wherever you guys are. When I'm focusing on the input, time expands. Don't focus on the output. Focus on the input. I'm not focusing on, I'm going to hit a line drive to the back of the batting cage. I'm focusing on the input. How do I get that end result? And if I focus on the input with just a simple 4-step formula, the uncluttered mind is systematic. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh shit. I'm taking out the trash. Okay, I have 4 steps for that. Our trash canisters underneath the counter in a drawer. I go there, pull it out. I drive my wife nuts. I pull it out. I take the trash can liner, I tie it up, and I put it down. Step 1. Step 2, I go to the drawer, and I take the trash can liner, and I put it over the side of the trash can. Step 2, I don't know why, this is how I do it. Step 3, I take it out to the trash can, boom, boom, throw it away, come back in. Step 3, step 4, boop, boop, put it in. Step 4, done. And when you complete a task with a process, you get a dopamine release. When you get that dopamine release, you celebrate that win. Does that make sense? So now I'm pushing in the canister underneath the drawer, the counter. I have 5 kids, 2 young girls. There's Kool-Aid on the top of the trash can. I have a decision. Nobody knows. Nobody's around. I have a decision right there. So what happens is I could just simply put it back in like Tab would do. Cool, I did it, boom. But if I know I have that, it takes me a couple seconds just to reach over to the counter, take that rag, go over here, wipe it off, and just push it back in. Now I just did extra credit on top of my 4-step focus formula. Boom. Watch out, fool. I have self-confidence. I just got self-confidence boost. What'd you do, sweetheart? I took out the trash. I make the bed the same way every day. I mow the lawn the same way every day. It's a process that you go through every single day. That's what it's going to get you through those days to where you want to give up. Those days where it becomes monotonous and boring, and those days to where you start suffering. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when I get in the game, I have three steps I focus on. In the batting cage is direction, ball, achievement, load, feel. Direction, ball, achievement, load, feel. The reason why I do that is I can't see myself swinging a bat because I'm actually doing it. So I have to be able to feel the movement so I can make an adjustment in between pitches in the major leagues because I have one pitch in that bat to do anything with. So when I get in the game, I have 3 steps I focus on. When do I start? Read the pitch, react. So when I'm training that skill set, as I do every day. So when Tab tells me, we're going to talk about this, I'm ready. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. I don't just show up like that because I can't show up like that because I'm not that good. But I train. I train when everybody else is sleeping because I love what I do. And I want to become so good that people can't ignore me. That's how you do it. When you walk into a room, you want to shift the energy of the room. You want people to feel you. And the highest resolution of energy that you can emit from somebody, guys, is when you're saying the truth and you believe in what you're saying. We can't believe in what we're saying, guys, if we don't believe in ourselves. So how do we believe in ourselves? You get the repetition. Take out the damn trash. Mow your lawn, make your bed, and when you do that, you put yourself in a position to go out there and just have self-confidence all day long and self-worth. So when I get in the game, when I'm in the batting cage, guys, I'm training that feel in my file cabinet. When you guys are getting the skill sets mastered or whatever you guys do, you're training that process in your file cabinet. You're training that into your nervous system. You're retaining that information. So we're not having distractions. We're not watching this. We're not watching that. We're not having our phone. We're just there and focused specifically. And when you do that, you're training it into your nervous system. So when I get in the game, when I go to compete, whether you're doing a sales call, whatever you're doing a meeting, whatever you're doing, showing up to do a job, like all you do is have self-confidence and you have intuition kick in from your training. When do I start? Read the pitch, react. When do I start? Read the pitch, react. When I swing a baseball bat, it's a reaction. Just like martial arts. I read it, bop, I just react. All your muscles fire at the same time. Got it? So when I'm in the game, when I read the pitch, if my eyes transmits the information to my brain takes that information and processes it real quick, and if it sees that pitch in the same spot that I trained off that batter's tee, my mind goes into that file cabinet and it just pulls out that swing. Bop! It's like, oh, snap. I didn't even realize I did that. That's how you do it and compete as a level 7 against 10s, 11s, and 12s. So how could you guys implement that into what you're doing right now? You have to train your mind a new way, rewrite the programs you have in your mind. It takes about 3 weeks to do that. You have to show up every day. We have to keep the promises to ourselves, guys. Whatever you do, you have to keep the promises to yourself. If I say tomorrow my daughter's waking up at 5:45, I have a pony coming in tonight at 11 o'clock for my other daughter, and we're going to take her over to the barn. And then tomorrow, I got to wake up at 5:15 tomorrow to take my daughter out front because her friend's going to pick her up for a field trip down in Tucson. And she's 8 years old. I make it a promise to myself. I got to wake up. If I say I got to wake up at 7 o'clock, wake up at 7 o'clock, regardless of how you feel. Do the Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get your butt out of bed. It works. Okay? Keep promises to yourself. When you do that, you get credibility with yourself. There's only one thing I was scared of playing Major League Baseball. Not a 101 mile an hour fastball, not playing in front of the lights and popcorn and fans and Stephen A. Smith talking smack about me on ESPN to get ratings, not this guy behind me trying to take my job. I don't care, fool. I got it. The only thing I was scared of, guys, is myself. Because I couldn't trust myself. In order to network with people, you got to trust yourself. We're all on guard. Everybody's seeing the same crap. We're all fighting our own battles, right? So I had to gain credibility, start trusting myself to be able to put myself in a position so I could be sitting right here today. Keep those promises to yourself and just do it. Nike?
Yeah, something like that. So there's something, there's a lot there. There's a lot there that he said, but one thing that just near and dear to my heart is he talked about his visualizing, the ability to see what's going on. And you know, when we sat down for the very first Fireside chat in November of 2020, and it was either you or Darnell who had said, man, I'm so glad we did this, or something like that. I said, what are you talking about, man? We've already done this like 20 times. What do you mean? Like,
that wasn't me, that was him.
Yeah. What do you mean? I'm like, I've done this. I've done this 20 times. We have already done this before we showed up and did it. I had done it so many times. I live every day of my life twice. When I go to bed at night, I think I know exactly how my day is going to go. I mean, not 100%, but I know these are the 6 things that I'm going to do today. That's going to happen. I had to learn to live like that because my life had been such a failure that I had to be that tight with it. But what I learned is that if I see the day the night before and I go to bed thinking about what I'm going to do the next day, and even though I know that, hey, surprises are going to happen, these are the 6 things that I have to get done. I'm going to live them. I'm going to go through, live them, see them, experience them. I'm going to go to sleep thinking about those things. So I'm in the process of writing my second book. And somebody had come to me and they're like, yeah, you know what? You said this thing in your first book. Man, I absolutely love that. That was phenomenal. And I went, wait, I said that? I was like, I don't remember saying that. I didn't say that to the person, but I was like, oh yeah, cool. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about? So I go back. So I'm like, I got to go back and listen to my book because I should probably know what it is I said. I listened to this and I'm like, I don't even know that guy. That's not who I am anymore. It scared the hell out of me. And the reason why it scared me is because when I was writing that book, like I would say, I need to get $10,000 cash money in pocket by the 15th or whatever the date was so I can pay my employees. I need this much so I can pay debt. I need this much. I would go to my accountant. What do I need? We need to get this. Boom, I can get that. Right? What do I need? Everything. I knew my life down to a T because I was scared. I was living my life in survival mode. And living your life in survival mode is an absolute phenomenal blessing. And so I started to realize that I had slipped back into a place that I never wanted to be in. That is sustain mode. That's sustaining my life. Well, you know,
that's a lot of people do.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I'm going about doing this. I'm going about doing this. I'm going about doing this. Rinse and repeat. But I'm just sustaining life. And it scared me because my thought is, if I keep doing this, I'm going to find myself at $750,000 in debt again, and I got to go relive this experience, and I got to go do this again until I learn that what happened. And so I realized that there's 3 areas that we spend our life, right? The majority, well, whatever, make up a percentage. 90% of us spend our time in sustain mode. Man, I can't wait to get home because I found a new Netflix series. It's got 6 seasons, 20 times 6, 120. Oh man, I'm super excited. Type on Facebook, hey, anybody got any good network series? I'm living in sustain mode. I'm just sustaining my life, right? Until one day you wake up and you get a pink slip and it says, hey, things are bad and you no longer have a job. And all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, I'm in survival mode. My life, I have to survive. What am I going to do? And we don't say it, but basically what we're telling ourselves is, what do I need to do in order to make it back to sustain mode? Because sustain mode is so comfortable. So you just want to get out of survival mode so you can go to sustain mode. So someday life knocks you back out, so you go to survival mode, so you can go to sustain mode, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. It's a painful way to live. And so my wife and I have done some weird stuff. Not like that. Not like that. Some weird stuff. Like one day.
It's good they're not asleep yet.
Nobody's asleep now. They're like, oh, this is finally getting interesting. But she gets a hold of me one day. She's like, I want to move on to a farm. I said, hell yeah, let's go. So we bought the farm. Okay, not like die, but we got pig. No, we don't have pigs. We got 25 chickens. We got rabbits. We got goats. To do all this stuff. They turn out to be pets. We got a horse. We got our own little farm. We're like Shea. We got a farm, right? We realized, man, this is a lot of hard work, right? So a lot of this. One day, and one day we come back, 25 chickens, well, I don't know. There wasn't total 25, probably 23 of them left, dead, scattered throughout the farm. I was so mad at the coyotes. I was mad at myself because I didn't, I thought I had set this fortress and nobody penetrated, but coyotes.
Gotta put a light on it. They won't come in the light.
I don't know, man. It was
Sorry.
during the day.
No, it wasn't. They don't kill the day.
It was during the day. We're going to have this argument. Trust me. It was during the day. Okay? And I was so mad. I hated coyotes for a long time. I'd be like, oh, look, dead coyote. That's a good coyote. Good coyote's a dead coyote. And then one day I realized that coyotes live their life, even if they're hungry, in survival mode. It's an instinct that they have to survive. So they killed those extra chickens because in their head, it's survival mode. And so I kind of realized that in order for me to succeed in life, in order for me to do things at a high level, I have to live my life like I need to survive. So I called it like struck gold. Like I struck gold. I'm doing great. I don't live, hand to mouth. I don't live paycheck to paycheck, doing great. But I live my life like I'm in survival, right? Because I need to be hungry. And that's the thing that I lost. So that's the thing that you think about wherever you're at. If you're in sustain mode, get the hell out of it as quickly as you can. Either get yourself in survival mode, realize your life is not what you think it is. It's just a matter of time before something knocks you out, or things are really good and you're going to knock yourself out. Ideally, knock yourself out of it, right? But this is how you get into like the ability to perform at a really high level. It's like, how do you, like this, there's times I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what the freaking hell were we thinking about doing this Networking Phoenix thing? This is a lot of work. This thing sucks money out of us. When I like, woohoo, look at the money, man. It's just this thing, it's like a big sucking sound right now of money. Right? Not that big. I'm over exaggerating it, right? But it's got so much potential. But I sit there and I'm like, what were we thinking, right? And the reason why is because it's the ability to like, what can you do in your life that pushes you into survival? How do you strain yourself, right? How do you just go? Because you know what? If you're comfortable right now and you're like, man, this is good. I'm happy. These guys are boring. Don't worry, man. Life is gonna knock you out.
Or down.
Or somewhere. Something's gonna happen. Do not rely on lottery tickets. Bad way to do it. But you have to be, you have to have that relationship with yourself first, right? You have to be able to look and say, I like myself. And if you don't like yourself, get there, right? Start by smiling. Start by believing. If you have like I'm a fraud mentality like I had for a long time, did you expect perfection? Right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, you start a business, man, I'm at point A, I'm going to point B. And somewhere along the line, we're shocked when the line doesn't do this and it does like this stuff like this all over the place. We're like, well, how'd that happen? It's like that's how it goes. We're doing this networking Phoenix thing. It has not gone exactly the way that we thought it was going to go. A lot of it is, a lot of it doesn't, and that's okay. It's like that website driving me nuts, driving me bananas. And I keep telling Catherine, it doesn't matter because in a year from now, the website's going to be amazing. So who cares right now? Because it's going to happen. Don't get caught up in the stuff. Keep your focus on your vision. And those are the things that are important, right? You know, if you're like, man, I don't like where my life is right now. I don't like this. I don't like that. Don't blame. Blame yourself. Go fix it. But don't be like, I could have been a contender or whatever, right? Go fix it. How are we doing on time? 7:52. 7:52?
Yeah.
Let me give them 4 things they could do to get out of where they are.
Okay.
You guys want some takeaways?
Can you do it quick, and then we're going to take questions.
Yeah, so there's 4 things you guys can control right now. And it's going to help you reprogram your mind, rewrite that program in your mind. The first thing you can control is what you watch on TV when you go home tonight and what you look at on your phone. Check this out. You get up in the morning, you watch the news for 3 minutes. It's a 27% chance higher that you're going to have a crappy day by just watching the news. So you have to be so careful of what you watch. The second thing is what you listen to when you're in the car, right? So if you're driving by yourself, if you listen to music, when I play Major League Baseball, I listen to Eminem. If you don't know who Eminem is, he's an angry rapper. That really didn't do too good for my programming because it made me and ingrained me as an angry person. I love new age country, but I listen to it too much. I mean, I'm thinking about killing my dog and getting divorced and drinking myself and all that stuff.
Buying a truck.
Yeah, whatever, right? So what you listen to, guys. The third thing is who you talk to on the phone. Who do you allow speak into your life? You have to be on guard because I'm telling you, the program that runs in your mind is the program that's the strongest program that gets trained over and over and over. I cut my parents out of my whole career because the story I told myself at 14 years old with my dad. I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, my dad doesn't love me. I didn't have a good relationship with them, and I have to live with that. My father passed 4 years ago. We got on a right path, and we cleared things up. And I moved my mom down next to me. I live in Queen Creek. I talk to her every day. I got to be careful when I talk to her because she's really negative, right? The closest people to you, how are they speaking into your life? Because that's programming your mind. The last thing is you can control what comes out of your mouth. I know this from a prime example. Just Google me. I would say stuff that everybody else would think. It's crazy. Check this out. A negative thought is 10x a positive thought. Just a negative thought is 10 times more powerful than a positive thought. You can control that. Stand on guard of your mind. Put the good stuff in your ears. Listen to the good stuff because the weeds will grow. That negativity will come. It will never go away, guys. You have to overwrite that. So if you say a negative thought out loud, out of your mouth, I suck, I'm no good, I can't do this, I can't believe I failed, it is 4 to 7x that 10. So what I'm saying is it's 40 to 70% going to happen that you're training that into your mind. So to wrap this all up, don't say stupid crap.
I could go on, but I'm not going to. We're gonna get some questions, right? I know we have one right here.
This is the most valuable session we've had at Networking Phoenix in 10 years. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Done.
We're
Thank
done.
Yeah.
No more comments. We're done right there. Thank you. Get out.
You can leave. I'll stay here all night
Why you got to be like that?
because that's how I am.
I know, but you got to be. You know,
This will create a multiple effect, and the Networking Phoenix will actually boom right after this, as you'll see. I have 2 questions. Your focus is amazing. Even when he's talking, you're looking right through him. I mean, with radar eyes, you're very, very focused. I'd like to know how you've become so focused. And secondly, law of averages. I'd like to know your thought on law of averages. It's made me millions. Even though you have the secret, you can dream and scheme on the actual goal. That means nothing. It's just the process that gets you to the goal is more important than anything. How do you perceive the law of averages since Babe Ruth proved more strikeouts make more runs? What can we hear from you on that?
Yeah, to answer that question, you asked about the law of averages, guys, and it's about focusing on the input, right? So hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports, period. They've done studies now that it's like humanly impossible to hit a major league fastball. I wake up in the night and I'm like, yeah, I got him again. I could do it in my sleep, right? So so to make it